Good morning slash afternoon, estudiantes. We're gonna try something a little bit different today because, as you can tell, I'm obviously not in the room. I apologize. I've been out for 3 days now. I'm at a conference this morning and was out sick yesterday and at a conference on Monday. But here's the deal. It's because I'm out, we have to make up this material, and I don't want to just have you sit there for the third day in a row not doing anything. Thank you for being so on point, substitutes, and people who've been in the class. But today we actually got to get something done. And I don't know if you saw me this morning or not, but I left handouts. There are two handouts. They're essentially two different pieces of paper, but I don't know if I'm going to have time to staple them together for you yet. So you need the 2.10.15 handout, and that would be 3 pages, and the written speech rubric. As I've talked to you guys before, you have a speech. That's why we're looking at the Martin Luther King speech. That's why I looked at the Gettysburg Address. It is going to be next week when we will give it, but you need to have it written by tomorrow. So there are a couple things we have to go over before we get to the actual speech itself, which is why I'm teaching you about these two concepts today that we need: parallelism and analogies. And I know you guys did a little bit of practice on this the day that I was out on Monday, and I did read that and gave you a grade for it. But I want to actually teach you what it is because it's a difficult subject. So bear with me today. Do not cut up while I go over this because we actually need to get this done. For those of you in first period, I know I have about 15 new students that I have not met yet. I will be here tomorrow on Thursday to introduce myself, to give you the paperwork that you need for this class, and to get the ball rolling really with this semester because it's been unexcusable how much time we've missed together. So I was going to, depending on the fact that I was going to be here, go over who I am, bathroom policy, tardy policy, makeup work on materials. I'm going to go over that tomorrow with you guys in first block. But the most important thing, I need you to bring a binder by tomorrow, which will be Thursday. Do not worry about the syllabus and student survey yet. I just need that binder. Here's my contact information. If you do need anything in emergency, you have any questions, you can text this number right here and it'll go straight to my email, or you can just email me right there. Okay. So today, the daily objectives, write this down on your handout. I know you all have your handout. It would be right here. Content objective. So the content objective for the day, SWABAT, analyze the use of parallelism and analogies in sentences. Second part is students will be able to identify a topic for the written/oral speech. I'm going to pause and give you guys a little bit of time to get this down. If at any point, to whoever's covering my class today, first of all, thank you, that the students are behind, that need more additional time copying, you can just pause this video. It should be on YouTube if I figure out how to get it there. So language objective. Student will be able to read sentences and explain in writing the use of parallelism and analogies within them. So the essential questions that we're really trying to figure out today are: what is parallelism or parallel structure? It means the same thing, just different ways to say it. And what is an analogy? So we give you 10 more seconds to get this down. All right. So, what does the word parallel mean? I mean, obviously, as we can see from this photograph right here, when you think about parallel, think about two lines that go next to each other in the same direction forever but do never touch. So parallel, in a sense, is like a railroad track. Like I said, these two lines, two tracks, go on forever and ever and ever in the same direction, and they hold the railroad together, but they never touch. So in the same sense as parallel would be at a railroad track, parallelism in English involves writing balanced sentences. Two or more ideas that are logically related should be expressed in a grammatically similar construction. For example, and, or, but, both. Go ahead and get this down on your handout. Parallelism, parallel structure, right here. It's a pretty tricky concept to understand. I know last semester in Foundations, a lot of you went over the different parts of speech, which you already should know. That being nouns, pronouns, grammar, different forms of grammar, verbs, adverbs, adjectives. Parallel structure is really similar to repetition, but like repetition where you have I have a dream, or now is the time, now is the time. Literally the same words over again. Parallelism means the same type of grammar structure over and over and over again. And I'll show you what this means in a second with a couple examples. I don't know how this is about to work, but I'm about to show you a YouTube video while I'm recording something for YouTube. So 20 more seconds to get this down. Okay. If you don't have it down while you're watching this next video, get the notes from a partner. Now, parallelism. We have essentially a video right here to explain to us what this means. So, parallel structure. I'm going to narrate. I just want you to watch, not cut up while we do this. So whenever you have, for example, an ing at the end of a verb, which means an action, something you do, how it would look parallel if you're using a bunch of different verbs, every verb has to have ing at the end. Mary likes hiking, swimming, and bicycling. It would not be parallel if you said Mary likes to hike, swimming, and to bicycle. It would not be parallel. Parallel, remember, it looks the same. Looks the same. This would be an example, another example right here, what I just said. You can say to hike, to swim, or to ride a bicycle. You can't say to hike, swimming, and to ride. It just doesn't make sense. Mary likes to hike, swim, and ride a bicycle. Would be another example of parallel structure. Like I previously went over, you can't say Mary likes hiking, swimming, and to ride a bicycle. You can't say Mary likes hiking, swimming, and riding a bicycle. You cannot say the student was asked to write his report quickly, accurately, and in a detailed manner. You can say the student was asked to write his report quickly, accurately, and thoroughly. Sometimes you got to figure out how to take out these phrases that don't mix and put in a new word, which means that you guys got to have a good steady set of vocab skills to do this. And I know a lot of this stuff, especially for English language learners that we have, and for those of you that did not study a lot of English grammar in school, can be difficult, which is why we're going to go over this again tomorrow when I'm here, but you need these base notes today. Third example, the teacher said that he was a poor student because he waited until the last minute to study for the exam, completed his lab problems in a careless manner, and his motivation was low. See, this last part right here does not fit with the ed at the end. Waited, completed, his motivation was low, does not make sense. To do it in a parallel manner, the teacher said that he was a poor student because he waited until the last minute to study for the exam, completed his lab problems in a careless manner, and lacked motivation. I'm just going to berate you with examples until you get it. So wake up. Miss Sifford, wake up. Thank you. Now, clauses. We're going to go over the different types of things that need to be parallel later, but I just want you to be able to get a base image of what parallel and not parallel looks like when they're compared to each other. So, scope. The coach told the players that they should get a lot of sleep, that they should not eat too much, and to do some warm-up exercises before the game. No. The coach told the players that they should get a lot of sleep, that they should not eat too much, and that they should do some warm-up before the exercises before the game. So you kind of see how this is repetition. But it's not like an aphora where it's at the beginning of the sentence. It's repetition in grammar. So I have a dream, I have a dream, I have a dream. Yeah, that's repeating the same idea. This is repeating the same way that you speak about a concept, the same way that you introduce something grammatically. Another example, the coach told the players that they should get a lot of sleep, not eat too much, and do some warm-up exercises before the game. Example, dose, not parallel. The salesman expected that he would present his product at the meeting, that there would be time for him to show his slide presentation, and that questions would be asked by prospective buyers. The salesman expected that he would present his product at the meeting, that there would be time for him to show his slide presentation, and that prospective buyers would ask him questions. There's something called active and passive tense, but we haven't really gone over yet in class or in foundations. And it has to do with the recipient of the action, the person doing the action. You start it right here and then do the verb. We'll go over this. I just want you to look at this. It's confusing. Take this example for what it is. We'll go over it in more depth when I get back. List after a colon. Not the body part. A colon, if you guys did not know, is this guy right here. The two dots on top of each other. Two dots on top of each other. So whenever you give a list of things after one of these colons, you got to make sure that it's in the right order. It's in the right structure. So the dictionary can be used for these purposes to find word meanings, pronunciations, correct spellings, and looking up irregular verbs. No. But the dictionary can be used for these purposes to find word meanings, pronunciations, correct spellings, and irregular verbs. So with this in mind, let's look at faulty parallelism. Without good pitching, the Marlins, or you know what, the Wildcats, can be expected to lose more than 80 games, to draft early in next year's draft, and attendance will greatly suffer. So think this breaks it down really ideally right here. There are three things going on that the author's trying to get at. He's saying that if the Marlins or the Wildcats suck at pitching, they can A, lose more than 80 games, B, they're going to draft early next year, and their attendance is going to suffer. So how do we make these things sound alike grammatically? How do we make them sound alike? Here's the example again. Without good pitching, the Marlins can be expected to lose more than 80 games, to draft early in next year's draft, and attendance will greatly suffer. No. Correct way to do it. Without good pitching, the Marlins can be expected to lose more than 80 games, to draft early in next year's draft, and to suffer greatly in attendance. If you look at it, if you say it out loud, I know a lot of you guys don't like to do this, but one of the best ways to know if you're writing correctly is if you say it out loud. If you read something on paper, read it out loud, you catch it more frequently if there's an error in it. It won't make sense. If you hear something and you trip up on it, you're like, well, I need to fix it. And sometimes you might not know what you need to fix, but if you keep working on it and keep forming it until it sounds correct, then you'll get it. So handout examples, volunteers and independent practice. What we're going to do really quickly, I'm going to have whoever's in charge of the class right now, if there's no one in there, hopefully to God there is, or a student, I need you guys to pause this video for approximately 5 minutes. I want you to look over this on your handout, not parallel structure, parallel structure. I want you to look over these examples and do these together. If you can't handle it together, do it independently. I want you to circle the correct answer, and then we're going to go over them together. Only these. Do not flip to this back page yet. Don't do it. Don't do it. You're not going to get it right. Do these four. Read them over. Have whoever's in this, please make a time remark where you need to pause this for 5 minutes. Starting now. Okay, now that we're back, what I want us to do, not parallel structure and parallel structure. Last summer I learned tennis, to swim, and riding a horse. No, the way you would properly say it in parallel structure, last summer I learned to play tennis, swim, and ride a horse. She was not only beautiful but also a spoiled child. No. She was not only beautiful but also spoiled. The employee was conscientious, devoted, and he worked hard. Better way to say that, the employee was conscientious, devoted, and hardworking. I am allergic to the dog's hair and how it smells. I am allergic to the dog's hair and its smell. So if we look at these examples, Justin was excited about inviting friends over, eating a good meal, and what will we say here? A game of cards, to play cards, or playing a game of cards. So let's look at how we did the other verbs in the sentence. Inviting, eating. Where's ing at the end? Playing. The correct answer for number 1 would be C. Now for number 2. I have always enjoyed reading the book more than I watched the movie version. Watching the movie. To watch the movie. Again, look at the verb. The whole key here, guys, is looking at the verb. Reading. What looks like reading? Watched, watching, or to watch? It's obviously watching. Number 2 would be B. So parallel structure again over here in number 3. When the weather outside is cold and blank, I like to be indoors. When the weather outside is cold and starting to get windy, or getting windy. Is there a verb before cold? Right here. It just says is cold. Would it make sense to say getting windy? Would it make starting to get windy? When the weather outside is cold and starting to get windy, getting windy? No, it just says say windy. Answer for number 3 is B again, windy. Now number 4, running, lifting, and blank are 3 of Ashley's favorite exercises. Look again, running, lifting, what? A spinning class? No, because spinning is an adjective here, it's not a verb. The verb would be bicycling, bicycling. So C. C, C, C. Guys, I know this is frustrating to be, and it's probably easy to fall asleep. I really need you guys to pay attention to this today. I need you to pay attention to this today. Tomorrow will be pretty much free time for you guys to write and do your own thing, listen to music, but today I need your attention. So independent practice. Again, when I say go, I would like this, whoever's covering my class to please press pause on this video for another 5 minutes. Another 5 minutes. We should be approaching somewhere around 30 minutes in the class period right now as we go. So 5 minutes individually, go through these answer them. Chill out when you're done. 5 minutes starting now. Okay, we're back. Number 1, blank, voting regularly, being prepared to defend the motherland, and displaying civility to all others sorry, I can't read. To all others comprise the Western ideal of a good citizen. There are a lot of words in there you probably don't know. But let's look at the structure. That's what we're trying to get at. Voting, being, displaying. What are we looking at? Did you just say education? No. To educate. To become education. I don't know how one can become education, but sure, go ahead, try for it, go for it, shoot for it, maybe one day. Becoming educated. Becoming educated, the answer is A. A. Number 2, caffeine, the world's most frequently used legal drug. Yes, caffeine is a drug. Is drunk by the world's population in the form of coffee, tea, and even blank. So let's look at this. We have nouns here. We got coffee, tea. They're nouns. We're not using verbs. So what will we say? Caffeine, the world's most frequently used legal drug, is drunk by the world's population in the form of coffee, tea, and even chewing on some herbs? No. Chewed on some herbs? No. Some herbs? Quit cutting up. Some herbs chewing. So herb, for those of you who would like to know, also means just a type of tea or plant. It would be some herbs. C for number 2. And number 3, to decide whether a water source is polluted or not, some biologists look at the... What does it say? Who wrote this? To decide whether a water source is polluted or not. Oh, that's a terrible sentence. Don't write like this person. Some biologists look at the color and acid level, whereas others place more importance on blank in observing animal life near the water. Observing. That's the key thing we're looking at here. Others place importance on blank in observing. So we're looking for a verb that ends with ing. So we would look, chemical test, chemical testing, test of chemicals. Obviously the answer would be B. So number 4, the hazards of overexposure to sunlight, including getting a burn or even cancer, outweigh the benefits, including blank and a tan, believed by many to be attractive. Outweigh the benefits, including blank and a tan. So we're tan in this sense. Tan can be an adjective to describe the color of your skin. But we're talking about a tan here. We're talking about the color of your skin. Tan here would be a noun. So we're looking at another noun. To produce, vitamin A producing vitamin E, production of vitamin E would be A. Number 4 would be A. Now the last one, 5. Cooking is one basic skill that many young adults lack, according to a recent survey, along with blank and blank. Cooking is one basic skill many young adults lack, according to a recent survey, along with and. Well, this is incorrect. It's supposed to say something right here, but if we look at cooking is a verb. It would be D, washing clothes. Sorry this is so janky today. About 35 minutes into class, what I want us to do is look currently at analogies. Now, analogies are difficult. A lot of you guys, all of you know, you've learned this since like 4th grade, what a simile and a metaphor is. Simile, you know, is comparing two things using like or as. Metaphor is comparing two things not using like or as. Now, analogies are kind of like similes and metaphors, right? So think about it like this. They're just longer. They're longer and they focus more on what other types of relationships exist. So I'm trying to see if I have this down here somewhere. Yeah, I have it down there. Just bear with for a minute. Here are a couple examples of analogies. Do not write this stuff down yet. When she tried to sing, these are actual analogies used by high school students in English essays. I would be just happy if you guys use any analogies in any of your essays, including these. Number one, when she tried to sing, it sounded like a walrus giving birth to farm equipment. It sounded like. I mean, you have that like, and it obviously looks like simile. But it's not. It's an analogy. It's longer. It's comparing when she tried to sing to the sound of a walrus giving birth to farm equipment. It's not saying she was like a walrus. That would be a simile. That would be a simile. She was like a walrus. She is like a walrus. That's not what we're saying here. We're saying that her singing is like the sound of a walrus giving birth to farm equipment. That's a pretty gruesome image. Second one, her eyes twinkled like the mustache of a man with the cold. For a simile, you would just say her eyes were like a mustache. A metaphor, her eyes were a mustache. That's not what we're saying here. We're saying her eyes twinkled like the mustache of a man with a cold. So the mustache of a man with a cold twinkles. Her eyes are twinkling. We're comparing those two things. We're not just comparing her eyes and a mustache. And here's another one at the bottom. She was like a magnet. That would be a simile if we just cut off right here and didn't look at it anymore. But then the student had to go on and add attractive from the back, repulsive from the front. So that's what we're getting at. This would just be a simile. This is an extended analogy. So exactly what an analogy is, write it down in your handouts. An analogy is a comparison of two or more things or ideas which are alike in certain respects and different in other respects. It's on the third page of your handouts. So, for example, the creatures outside looked from pig to man, and from pig to man to pig, and from pig to man again. But it already was impossible to say which was which. This isn't an analogy. We're not using like or as, and it's not a metaphor. But what two things are we comparing? That's right, Diamond Durham. We're comparing pigs and man. So in your little blanks right there where it says what two things are being compared, write pig and man. This is actually from Animal Farm by George Orwell, if you have read this before. The whole book is an analogy. Symbolic. So for the second one, watching the movie was like being in a wild car chase, full of unexpected twists and turns. We're not comparing the movie to a car chase. I mean, we are, but we're not saying the movie was like a car chase. Look, we're saying watching the movie was like being in a wild car chase. So the two things you're comparing, watching the movie, the first one, being in a wild car chase would be the second one. There's a couple more minutes to get this down. Okay. So analogies. You don't have to write this all down. It's already written down for you. Write down what's bold. Analogies are different from similes and metaphors, like I said. They are not figures of speech, but are used to create logical arguments. You can't just say random stuff, start comparing random stuff with analogies. You got to have a purpose behind them. They're trying to prove a point. You use these a lot in speech. They are often extended, like we said, they're longer and more complex. Instead of simply providing comparisons, analogies force the reader to apply the comparisons to other similarities between two things being compared. We have simile, the man is like a cat. Obviously, it has the word like. Metaphor, the man is a cat. Now, an analogy, we're not just making these comparisons between two things that are not alike at all. That's what figurative language is making comparisons between two things that aren't alike. What an analogy does is it makes the comparison between two things that are different, but it explains what similarities they have and how those similarities can be used to find other similarities between the things. So write this example of the analogy down. Sorry, this is supposed to say the man. When Johnny sensed he was in danger, his cat-like instincts kicked in and led him to safety. Obviously, we're making a comparison between Johnny and the cat. Still, the man and the cat. But we're not straight up saying Johnny's like a cat. The man is like a cat. Johnny is a cat. It's a logical argument. These essentially could be the same thing, but this is an example of the same topic with an analogy, with a metaphor, with a simile. Couple more seconds to get this done. There's a good reason I'm having you guys do all of this today. In your speech, which you will be writing for me tomorrow when I get back, hopefully, and I'm not in the hospital at that time, I need you, in your speeches, to give me two of the following three literary devices: analogy, parallelism, or repetition. Your speech, we're going to go over in a minute. Don't freak out. It's only going to be a 2 to 3 minute speech. The written part is going to be a page, one solid page. And I'm going to give you the format for how to do it. Like we gave you the format and foundations for how to write it, you're going to get it here. So don't freak out. Another thing, too, I'm going to have sign-up sheets for those of you who are absolutely against getting up in front of the class. And I know, for me, when I was in high school, it wasn't until I was a senior in high school. When I gave my speech for graduation was when I really started to like public speaking. I know for some of us, it's incredibly difficult. It's embarrassing, it can be challenging, and we would rather fail than get up there and think we're making a fool out of ourselves. So to avoid this and to avoid you from getting shut down, I'm going to make a schedule of times next week. There are limited times during lunch. You're going to have to come during your lunch or after school where you can present your speech to me one-on-one. It's the only way out of this. This is a test grade. Same thing that we took the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech. For those of you who didn't take it, I'm going to give it to you tomorrow. I'm finishing grading those. But you need to include an analogy, parallelism, or repetition. Two of those three literary devices. So don't freak like you're going to be getting up in front of the class and make a fool out of yourself. I mean, 90% of you will have to get up in front of the class and give the speech. Don't get me wrong. I only have a limited number of hours in a day. But for those of you who have extreme circumstances, I will talk to you and work with you through this. So, no, that's not it yet. Go to your handouts. Basic analogy practice. What I'm going to have you do, whoever's in charge of the computer right now, 5 minutes to get this done. Analogies. We're comparing two things. And you'll see how we do this. So for example, scissors are to cut as broom is to what? Car is the mechanic as body is the what? Timekeeper, computer, clicker. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Take a pause from this video and do this. Basic analogy practice just right here. Okay, welcome back. Get on point. Alright. So scissors are to cut as broom is to what? This is a really simplified way of making an analogy. It's good practice to begin with. Scissors cut. What do brooms do? Sweep. Good job. Car is the mechanic. His body is to what? Doctor. Mantle is to mantle as jam is to what? Now this is a difficult one. These two words sound alike, but they're entirely different meanings. So what's a word that sounds like jam? Jam. J-A-M. And here we have black is to white, as up is to what? Down, obviously. Stanza is to poem, as verse. Alright, somebody should have had it called up by right now. Is to song. Number 5 is song, down, jam, J-A-M, doctor, sweep. So, apart from, sorry, let me get to some point real quick. 5 minutes. I want you to take a timer and do this independently, take a pause from the video again, starting right now. Okay, now that we're back, I want to go over these. Like water rushing downstream, the wildfire spread quickly down the mountain. Two things we're comparing. Water, wildfire. Water and wildfire. Number 2. Papers and toys were scattered across the room after the party. The room looked like a tornado had hit it. Now this one is a little bit more difficult. Let's analyze it, break it down. Papers and toys were scattered across the room after the party. The room looked like a tornado had hit it. So obviously, the room's a mess. What it's comparing is the party to a tornado. Party, tornado. Make sure you get those down. Number 3, solving the puzzle was like trying to untie a complicated knot. This one's a little bit more difficult. Again, I keep saying that. They're all difficult. Solving the puzzle is the one thing that's being compared. Solving the puzzle, trying to untie a complicated knot. Is the long way to look at it. Solving the puzzle, trying to untie a complicated knot. So the acceptable answer would be not puzzle. Not puzzle. Sorry if I keep leading you guys off in the wrong direction. I'm losing it right now. Number 4, making our way through Walmart was like finding our way through a maze. Comparing two things. Wally World and maze. Which is true. I mean, that one-off Independence is pretty easy to navigate. I just don't like going in and out of the parking lot. So Walmart, That was an aside. But anyway, Walmart in a maze. Walmart in a maze. Number 5, Gina. Her new laptop reminded her of a fancy sports car. It was sleek and beautifully designed. Well, isn't that great for Gina that she got a laptop? Good for her. Everybody clap for Gina. But regardless of that, Gina being privileged with her new laptop, sports car. You guys see with these analogies, it's not just like Gina's new laptop is like a sports car. It continues it by saying why it's like a sports car. That's what these analogies are. You can't just say like or as or not like or as for a metaphor. And I'm going to explain this more tomorrow. It has to be extended. It's like a simile, but you explain why. If you want to think of it that way. You guys all know what similes and metaphors are. Simile or metaphor and explain why. So laptop, sports car. So that's the end of this part of the packet. If you flip on the back of your packet, if somebody made the copies correctly, you should see what looks like a rubric. It says speech 1 rubric. I'll pull it up in a minute, but give me a second. Now, what's wrong with the world, mama? I don't know if you guys like Outkast. That's one of the OG Outkast songs from the I think it was mid-90s, late 90s, maybe the early 2000s, whatever. But the reason I have this picture of Mr. Shakur, besides that, if you were in my class last semester, you know that I like to talk about Tupac. I know it seems hard sometimes, but remember one thing: through every dark night, there's a bright day after that. So no matter how hard it gets, stick your chest out, keep your head up, and handle it. You guys are writing a speech, starting today. What your speech is going to be about. You guys have beef or a problem with something in the world. Now, they might not all be the same. Like I know Breon has a problem with the fact that he can't find a barber that can give him a straight hairline. I get that. Not all of our problems might be the same. What I need you to do independently today, well, if you guys want to brainstorm, I was going to brainstorm on the board with you had I been there today. Problems. And I don't just mean like problems like poverty or racism or my corner store doesn't sell Takis or the powder from my Takis gets all over my clothes. I'm not talking about those type of problems. I mean I am, but for one person they might not be that type of problem. For the other there is. Your speech, you're identifying a problem that you have in your community. We talked about community being a group of people who share the common space. Martin Luther King's community was the African American community and white community. It was the United States. That was his community. LeBron James, his community is Cleveland. I mean, your community might be Charlotte, it might be Hidden Valley, it might be off Sugar Creek. I don't know what your community is. There's something that, and I know you guys are going to say, oh, there's nothing I want to change, I'm perfectly content. Are you though? Are you happy with the way things are? I mean, are you happy with the amount of education you're getting? You know, I didn't quit on you, thank God, but are you happy with the fact that teachers at schools like Guaranteed quit all the time? That next year you're probably going to get 80 new teachers? I mean, realistically, that's what we're looking at. Is that right? I mean, is it right that Trayvon Martin can get shot for having a bag of Skittles? I mean, is what happened in your opinion? I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but what happened to Michael Brown, was that correct? I mean, is what happened to Martin Luther King getting shot down correct? Is it okay that more African American men are in prison, locked up, than in higher education, in college? I mean, is it right? Is it right that we have to struggle with things that we have to struggle with every day? That, you know, sometimes we gotta wait till the end of the month till the check comes out to get food? I mean, is that right? I mean, we talked a lot about human rights, and I know some of you guys might still have this paper, some of you might not. But the basic things that all humans should be afforded, should be able to have, able to do. And a lot of us are just surviving. But I want you to think about these things. I really want you to consider them, internalize them. Think about what is going on in your community. And it can be poverty, it can be racism, it can be the fact that your school is incredibly segregated. I mean, with the exception of, I think one student in my classes out of my 89 students this semester, I have one Caucasian student. I mean, it can be whatever problem you want. What I need from you today is I need you to start brainstorming and to pick a problem you're going to write about. Essentially, and I'm going to show you this in the rubric in a second, your speech is going to be 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph is going to be written just like an introduction thesis statement. The second paragraph, you have to have 3 reasons why this problem is a problem. I mean, you can say who it's affecting, what it's doing, what would the world be like if you didn't have this problem. It can't be that. And I want real stuff, guys. I don't want the cafeteria food sucks, because cafeteria food's free. I don't want stuff like that. I want you to go in deep and really tell me, what's the issue here? Because the whole point is you're trying to persuade. Just like Martin Luther King persuaded people one day that little black boys will be able to go and hold hands with little white boys and girls at the table of brotherhoods. I know you're 14, 15, 16, but start thinking about it now. How to articulate yourselves, how to get people behind your message, how to get people to understand that there is a brighter day after that. That's why I put this quote up there. I want you to really start taking account for your own community and looking at the problems that need to be fixed. Because you are the future. I mean, in 3 years, you are the now. I mean, you're not going to be the future anymore. You're going to be in it. It's going to be your responsibility. And think of it this way, too. Another way to phrase it. I don't know, some of you might have children now, but what do you not want your little baby boy or little baby girl or your little brother to have to go through that you've gone through? Think about these problems. I'm going to get this up real quick. Keep your head up. Keep your head up. I remember mom. Okay. So, this is what you should be looking at the back of your handouts. I want to go over this. You're going to be graded on 3 different categories. 3 different categories. That's 1, 2, 3. Uno, dos, tres, Christian. Gonzalez. You're going to be ranked at a 5. The lowest you could get, actually, if you don't just do it, you get a 0. The lowest you can get is a 3. 6, Mafia, no, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So 180, am I doing this right? 180, 60, 40, 20, 0, which is off the page. What I'm looking for is organization. All the classes are doing this. All the English classes are doing this. If Miss Woe was in there, she can explain to this in more depth right now. Please, if she's in there, please ask her as many questions as you need to. She can help you out with this greatly today. Number 1, organization. Number 2, rhetoric, which means speech. Number 3 means revisions, which means editing and copy editing. As I told you guys as a journalist, toward the end of the time I was writing, I would rewrite something 10 times to get it done. I mean, you have to, otherwise you look like an idiot because you make a mistake, because you spell somebody's name wrong, and then you get somebody calling your office up trying to get you fired because you were disrespectful. Nah, you don't want that. I'm trying to set you up not to have to deal with these people. So what I'm looking for, if you get perfect on organization, you're going to follow the intended structure. The intended structure? I don't agree with that word choice right there, but you're going to follow a specific structure. It's going to be 1 page in length, 3 paragraphs. Your paragraphs are going to follow the specific structure laid out by the graphic organizer. You're going to get the graphic organizer tomorrow. I'm going to give you sentence by sentence by sentence what you have to do. But you got to put in work today to get your topic, because I'm not screwing around with this tomorrow. Come in ready to write. And do not skip, because it's a 4-day weekend. Because you will be responsible for it regardless. If you don't have a draft into me by Thursday, you're going to have to email it to me. You can get a 0. I mean, that's just the way it is. A call to action. Your speech needs to get people persuade. The whole point of it is to get people to do something, whether that's to help invest money in the hotels of your neighborhood or to invest money in local businesses to get more people to show up. It's the whole thing is directed toward getting people to do something. So rhetoric, what this means, you got to use two of the three devices: parallelism, repetition, and analogy. Any two of the three. To get full credit, you have to highlight where they are in the speech. I do not want to go look for them. I do not want to go look for them because a lot of you guys' handwriting is not legible. Don't do that to me. Number 5, revisions. So the reason I need you to do this today is so I can read over them this weekend and give them back to you on Tuesday. When I give them back to you on Tuesday, you guys are going to work with partners to look over them yourselves. What this means is that you guys revisions to get full credit. You got to take account what your peers said. You got to take account what I said because you're going to rewrite it. You're going to rewrite it at least 2 times. So 4, I mean, you can read. I mean, you guys have it. You can read. Most you can read. If not, we'll get there. I'm just playing. You can all read. I'm not hating on you. So you should have, looking at this, approximately, this thing's been going for 51 minutes. You should have 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Think of a topic. Brainstorm. Everybody's topic needs to be different. I mean, not necessarily. It doesn't need to be different, but you can't have the same reasons. It can't be like, I think that that the buses or that school should be put later because I don't want to get up so early in the morning. I don't have enough time to eat my breakfast. Blah blah blah. You can't all use the same reasons. Don't be lame like that. Think of a topic. Write it down right here. Write it down. Write it down. When you are completely finished for the day, I'm leaving my hole puncher out. Hole punch this and put it in your binders. I'm not going to collect it. Don't turn it in. You're going to need it tomorrow. You are going to need it tomorrow because we're going to jump right into writing. Now, thank you all for being so patient with me today. I appreciate it. I appreciate the good behavior that I know you guys have been on point every day this week. And trust me, I'm not going to forget that. Thank you. You guys are killing it. And I will see you tomorrow. If you have any questions, like I said, I mean, please don't harass me because I won't pick up. I'm tired. If you have any urgent questions, email me. And I'm going to say this, and I know I'm sorry to whoever's in the room, behavior management on this one. If you guys need to look up issues that you think are pertinent in your community, if you want to actually start writing a speech, please feel free to do so on your own personal electronic devices. Do not get on my laptop. Do not get on my computers. That's a no-no. If you need to look up this stuff, go ahead and start writing. If you have makeup work you need to do once you're finished, go ahead and do that. If you need to make sure your binder's on point, make sure you do that. But this, if I didn't get to hole punch it in the morning, which we'll see if I did or not, but make sure it's hole punch and put in your binder at the very end. All right, thank you all very much and have a fantastic day.